Hello and welcome to Legalese. My name is Vincent Perryman and I'm a local attorney with the law offices of J. Vincent Perryman. Each month, Legalese focuses on a wide range of legal issues and topics. Today's show covers the Tennessee Legislature. With us now is Tennessee State Representative Brian Kelsey.
Hello, thanks very much for having me on, Vince.
I appreciate it. So, for our viewers, give us a brief overview of how the legislative process in Tennessee works.
Well, as you remember from your civics classes, hopefully you have two different bodies, the House of Representatives and the Senate. And in the House of Representatives, we have 99 members, and that's where I serve as one of the representatives representing Germantown, along with a couple of others, Curry Todd and Steve McManus also represent parts of Germantown. And then on the Senate side, we have 33 members, 33 senators. And interestingly enough, we have, as you can imagine, a large population from here in Shelby County. 16 of the representatives are from here in Shelby County, and 6 of our 33 state senators are here in Shelby County. And so to create a new law in Tennessee, a bill has got to pass both the House and the Senate in the exact same form, and then it will go on to the governor for his signature.
All right. So what bills were passed this year?
Well, we had a number of bills passed this year, but interestingly enough, it was I would say, all in all, a slower year this year than in years past that I've been there. This was my 4th year to serve in the legislature, and the main reason we passed fewer bills was because we had less money this year. And just in the same way that a lot of households are experiencing a budget crunch, we experienced a budget crunch in Tennessee this year, and we ended up with actually a $500 million budget shortfall. And so there were not a whole lot of new programs that were passed in terms of new funding. I know one of the issues that the governor had wanted to expand was pre-K funding, and that, for example, ended up being cut out of the budget at the very end of the day. We did pass a number of bills, some of them affecting the legal arena and others not. There was a medical malpractice reform bill, there was a judicial selection bill, and there were others as well regarding those issues and dollar amounts.
So the medical malpractice reform bill, please expound on that. That's something that's always a hot topic.
It certainly is always a hot topic. We found after the state did some studies that 80% of cases that are filed against medical providers, doctors, hospitals, nurses, people of that nature, 80% are actually end up being resolved with no payout to the victim, with $0 being compensated to the victim. So that leads us to believe that maybe there are a few too many cases being filed. And so that's really the issue, and that was the problem that we were trying to address. And the main way that we address that problem is by requiring now a medical expert to sign off on the fact that this is a legitimate issue, and it's a legitimate dispute and something that should be pursued in the court of law. And so that is now a requirement. Within 60 days of filing a claim, the attorney now has to get a medical expert to sign off on this claim and say, yes, this is a legitimate medical claim and it should go forward.
Okay. And the other bills of note that you were talking about, if you'd expound on those.
Yeah, certainly. There were lots of other issues that we took up. We looked at investing our pension funds in foreign countries that are actually state sponsors of terrorism. And that's one particular issue that I'd heard a lot from my constituents about. And I mean, people just don't like knowing that our state pension funds are going to support countries like Iran, while they're also threatening the rest of the world and certainly Middle East, with in Israel in particular, with action of threatening nuclear weapons, basically. And so that's an issue that we took a look at. These are state pension funds, so they're actually the possession of the state employees. We all pay into the system a certain amount, and then that amount is matched by the state, and then this goes into a fund. But we can invest those funds however we want to see fit. And so we want to just make sure that we're not investing those funds in corporations that are also investing in state sponsors of terrorism. Sudan is another big issue that people are concerned about, and of course there's been all kinds of civil war going on there for a number of years, and a lot of the way that that's being financed is by these companies who are investing there, and particular in oil and gas, especially in Iran, and then they use those funds to turn around and buy weapons and to fund the genocide that's taken place. And so by divesting our funds, then we hopefully ensure that less of that aggressive action is taking place. So what we did on that particular front was, again, there were several of us who were pushing very hard for flat out doing away with all such investing. And I know the treasurer in particular was very concerned that this may be a bad idea, that that might cost a lot of money, or we would lose some sort of investment. Mm-hmm. I mean, it seems to me that there are plenty of other countries and companies to invest in. But what we finally decided to do was to just take a look and study it and come up with a list of all of the companies that we're investing in that do meet this criteria. And then we're going to take those and come back next year, hopefully, and act on that report.
All right. So was there anything that it just stands out to you that you all passed this year, other than those two?
Yeah, well, certainly a big item that's going to affect a lot of college students and a big item that caused a lot of consternation in the legislature dealt with the Hope Lottery scholarships. And in fact, it was this one particular issue, which was whether or not we should lower the GPA required to maintain the Hope Scholarship, that kept us from adjourning early back in 2007. It was the very last issue that we dealt with in 2007, and ultimately no resolution came from it. So we went ahead and adjourned in 2007. We said we'll bring this issue back in 2008 and we'll look at it again. Well, we looked at it again this year in 2008, and still it ended up being the very last issue that we could finally come to a compromise over. And it did finally pass. And the issue was this: there were certain members of the legislature who feel like there's a pretty big pot of money in the lottery reserve fund. So that's the fund that's made up of people paying in their $1 here, their $2 here for lottery tickets. And then, of course, those lottery, there's certain payouts that take place and people win. But as we all know in gambling, the house always wins. So at the end of the day, there's more money left over than there is paid out. And that money goes to fund lottery scholarships. But the way that we've been funding them so far, we've still, even after we've funded every scholarship that's been paid for and that's been earned by these students, we then have had money left over at the end of the day, and that pot is growing. So the idea is that some of the members of the legislature wanted to spend more of that lottery reserve fund on scholarships, and they would like to do so by reducing the GPA requirement. Right now, you have to maintain a 2.75. This was going into the year, I guess, in 2008. You had to maintain a 2.75 for your first year, but after that, you had to maintain a 3.0 to keep your Hope Lottery scholarship throughout your time in college. And some legislators were pushing to have the minimum GPA requirement be lowered to 2.75 for your entire college career. And on the other side, there are those of us, myself included, who felt like that this was a merit-based scholarship program. That's how it was sold to the public back when we all voted for it as a constitutional amendment. It was not sold as a needs-based scholarship program. If it were, we would just do away with the GPA requirement altogether, and we would simply give it to people who needed the money. But that's not the way, in my opinion, it was sold to the public, and people voted on it. So we said, let's keep it at a 2.75 for your freshman year and give you some time to adjust to college, but let's keep it at 3.0 from there on out, because after all, we are giving you up to $5,000 in some cases to go to college, and I think it's reasonable to ask people to maintain a certain level of success in college if they're receiving that free money. So that was the battle, 2.75 or 3.0. What's it going to be?
So where did it land? At the 3.0?
Well, what happened was it was a compromise. On the House side, which is a Democratic-controlled body, we passed it as 2.75 throughout the entire period. In fact, I was the only person who voted against lowering it to 2.75 for the entire period, and I felt like it should stay at 3.0. Now, on the Senate side, which is a Republican-controlled body, more or less, and we can expound on that if we need to, then it passed as maintaining it as a 3.0. So the final compromise between the two bodies was we will keep it at 2.75 through the junior year, and then at that point it will go to a 3.0 each semester. So it's not cumulative, so it wouldn't penalize someone. You wouldn't have to raise your GPA all the way up to 3.5 to get a cumulative 3.0. But each semester by semester after your junior year, you'll have to maintain a 3.0. It's rather confusing. I hope these college students can figure it out, but they're all smart. They'll figure it out.
Yep. Well, when we return, we'll continue our discussion about the Tennessee Legislature. Please stay with us.